Hey guys, C here. Thank you so much for clicking to join me in today's video. It is a beautiful day. I definitely wanted to take advantage of it and come out in the she shed for the little bit of time that I have. And I decided to go ahead and prep my next sewing project. And in the process of doing so, I thought it would be super fun to share 10 things I do and don't do as a sewist or garment maker. Now today I'm going to be working on McCall's 8149. This is a misses and women's skirt pattern, a pencil skirt pattern. The suggested fabrics are faux leather, twill, denim, and velvet. I am going to be working with this beautiful canary yellow faux leather that I sourced from Joann's on sale, and I am going to be making View C. That is the longer pencil skirt with the split in the middle. Now, if you would like to join me as I prep for this pattern, as well as learn a few things about me as a garment maker, keep watching. Now, while I'm excited to make this video and share, this is hands down probably the dumbest decision I will ever make, because I don't know how in the world I can possibly talk and cut fabric and pattern pieces without making a mistake. But we're going to hope for the best. Okay, now, McCall's 8149. I told you I'm going to do View C. That is the longer pencil skirt with the split in the middle. Now, this will be my first time tackling a fly front zipper. I'm excited. I've spent all year intimidated by it. I changed my jean pattern, the pattern that I anticipate making jeans with. I changed it to an invisible zipper because I wasn't ready to tackle the fly front. I don't know. For some reason, I woke up and I decided I just wanted to make grand decisions. So here we are. We're going to tackle this time around. And I'm also excited to work with faux leather. And it could be because of this beautiful color here. Once again, I sourced this from Joann's. Now, I don't work with wovens very often. I'm truly trying my hand at them this year. And I've made a handful of makes this year, somewhat successfully with the wovens. I should definitely be making a toile before I go ahead and cut this fabric, especially since I don't want to waste my money and because I don't know how this woven is going to fit. This doesn't have, it has a little bit of stretch to it, but not much. And so I am a little concerned how that waistband is going to work. And so that leads me into my first don't. I do not make a toile or muslin. While I know that I should, and it is a wise decision, I just don't. And I don't because ain't nobody got time for that. I'm excited to make my garment. I don't want to make it twice. It's hard enough carving time to make it one time. You want me to make it twice? No, what's life without whimsy, okay? We make it and we hope for the best. I'm trying to get better about it though. No, I'm not, because I haven't even bought any muslin yet. So that's a lie. I anticipate getting muslin the next time I go to the fabric store. I try to say it with a straight face. In the next couple visits to the fabric store, I will be purchasing muslin. I'm gonna try. All right, let's start cutting. Now, because I foolishly don't make a toile or muslin, I often struggle with what size to cut. And that leads me into my second don't. I don't read the finished garment measurements. Oh, you guys are going to handle me in the comments. I don't read the finished garment measurements. I know that they're there. I don't quite care. I don't have time for that either. So I guess. And with this particular fabric and this particular make, I am going to guess that the waist of the 14 would probably fit and feel better, but the body of the 10 would do me better. So I'm going to call it down the center, and I'm going to be cutting, I'm going to be cutting a 12. Okay. And so let's see. That 12, finished garment measurements, hip and width, 39. Oh, geez. Fine. Let me get my measuring tape. Okay, 12 it is. So for skirt C is what I said I was going to make. I know with that fly front, it's going to have several more pieces. Now, I actually debated between making View C and View A. I like the simplicity of View A, and I also cheated and I already read the instructions, and View A has 20 steps as opposed to View C, which has like 50. And I think most of those steps, because I didn't get that far, I think most of those steps have to do with the fly front. But I also know that view C uses a ton more pieces than view A. View A only has like 6 pieces, I do believe. Yes, view A has 6 pieces, and it's looking like view C has 11. Oh my God, 11 pieces. Okay. All right, push through, push through. Don't give up yet. I'm going to remain steadfast, and I'm going to continue to cut view C. And so with view C, that means that I will be using pieces 1 through 12, omitting number 6. Ugh. All right. Now, since I've shared 2 don'ts with you, let's get into some do's. Okay, first do is that I do color match my thread to every single project. And since I work with a lot of color, very rarely do I have black or white thread on deck. Those are literally the 2 colors I work with the least. And so anytime I just made a black dress, I had to go out and get black thread. And the white thread that I have on my thread spool holder, I've had it probably for like 4 years. I can't remember the last time I bought white thread. For there to be 11 pieces that I have to cut, these are some small pieces. All right, let's even it up. Let's do another do. The second do that I do, I press while I sew. My iron is always on deck when I'm sewing. Steam ready. If I'm not using it and I notice that it's gone inactive, I will literally get up from the machine and cut it back on just so that it's nice and hot when I get ready to press my seam. And let me tell you, I'm always pressing seams open and pressing in general that my iron rarely ever goes inactive. It's one of those things that I have to do. It's one of those good practices that I realize make a huge, huge difference in my sewing. I'm a firm believer that pressing while you sew does elevate your garments from looking homemade to professional. I don't pre-wash my fabrics. I know the main reason to wash those fabrics is to prevent shrinkage, but in my experience, the only fabric that I've worked with that does shrink or has the capability of shrinking is cotton, and I don't work with a lot of cotton. Most of the materials that I work with are polyesters or polyester blends, and I've never had an issue with shrinkage. I also work with a lot of knits. Knits are my go-tos, and they stretch. So even if I do have a little bit of shrinkage going on, it's nearly impossible to detect. I can't even detect it because my fabric is shrinking and I'm not making tight clothing. As a matter of fact, up until this year, I've been making garments that were just a hair too big for me. They didn't fit very well. I wasn't prioritizing fit. Now I am. So that may come up in the future, but I seriously doubt it. So while I would love to make a habit out of pre-washing, for me, I don't find it necessary. Now, while I don't find it necessary for me to pre-wash all the time, I definitely wash after I make a garment. Now, as soon as I finish a garment, I run in the house, I try it on for my husband, show him my excitement for it or my disdain. And then I take my pictures to share online with you guys, maybe use it as a recap for a video. And then it immediately goes into the wash before it goes in my drawer or my closet. And that is because, as you'll see, if you continue watching, you'll see that after I cut my pattern pieces on my workbench, then I move to the floor and I cut my fabric pieces on the floor. I have the most room there. And so it's going to be on this dirty rug. Now, I don't like to wear shoes inside my shed. I do take my shoes off as I enter the door, but still, I'm still walking all over it. I have a dog in the house. The fabric has already been touched and handled in the store. It's been all across this workbench that I eat on. It's outside in the element. It's in and outdoors, on and off the floor. I definitely wash it before I give it a really good wear and before it goes in my closet, hands down. Okay, let me make sure I have all of my pieces. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We omit 6, right? Omit 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Beautiful. So now that I've cut my pattern pieces, I'm going to go ahead and pivot to the floor. Now this leads me into the perfect segue for my next do, and that is I do press my pattern pieces. Now, over the course of the last year, I have worked exclusively with commercial patterns. Anything that I have made has been a commercial pattern, and I realized that I had it all wrong. I thought that sewing was the most important thing, sewing in a straight line or making sure that my notches match and everything were the most important steps of making garments, and that's not true. Well, at least not for me. What I have found is that prep is the most important step in executing any garment. And I found that having precise cuts on my fabric yields the best results for me. And I can't do that if I have crinkly paper. So with no steam on the lowest setting, I press out my fabric pieces. And so they lay nice and flat on my fabric, which helps me get a more accurate cut, a more accurate shape, and I have a lot better success. Okay, I think we are 3 for 3. So let's do another don't. And my next don't is that I do not sew over my pins. All it took was one time for me to nearly lose my life, for me to realize I will never do that again. So I'm sewing. I think I was using my quantum stylus. I run over a pin, just casually. I've been sewing over pins for the longest at this point. I run over a pin. It splits and a shard hits me right here outside my eye. Right here outside my eye. It was enough to scare the heck out of me. I've never done it again. All I could think of is, what if that shard of metal or that pin went in my eye? What would have happened? Nope. I don't even take the risk. I don't do it anymore. Which leads me into my next don't, and that is that I don't put pins in my mouth. I read a blog post. This was like early on in my sewing journey. I read a blog post. That was before YouTube was really a thing. So we're talking 9 years ago, when YouTube wasn't really hitting like it is now. So the only people that were on YouTube that I was familiar with was Mimi G at the time. So I would go to a lot of blog posts like Pinterest. Oh my goodness, there's so many blog posts on Pinterest that taught me how to sew. And so I was reading a blog post, and this woman shared a story on how she was sewing, and she would hold pins in her mouth, and she swallowed a pin. She had to have surgery because it got lodged. I do not hold pins in my mouth. It's enough to scare me straight. Won't do it again. Now that I don't have to pay attention as much, I can just cut for right now. I can go ahead with my next do. And my next do is that I do work on one sewing project at a time. I don't have a lot of pieces that I'm currently working on or works in progress. I have literally one sewing project at a time. I don't know why I'm like that. I've kind of always been like that. I don't know if maybe it just helps me focus better if I just do one thing at a time. I mean, I do easily get sidetracked. I don't have ADD. I'm a mover, okay? I'm a mover and a shaker. I just don't sit still, and I find work for myself to do in the house. There's so many things that have to get done, so many things that need my attention, that I'm just stretched here or there. Same thing with work. You know, you don't go into work and you just have one task that has to get done every day. You have a series of tasks. And so maybe with sewing, it just gives me the opportunity to dial in and just focus on one particular thing. Maybe I enjoy that. Maybe there's a form of solace that I enjoy, only having to focus on one thing at a time. Ooh, I like that. You know, that sounds really good. So we're going to go with that. Now, I saved these pieces last because I only needed to cut one. I didn't need to cut two out of them. And I wanted to salvage as much scrap material as I could. However, that leads me into the perfect segue for my next don't. And that is, I do not purchase more fabric than what I need. That is a blessing and a curse, because there are some times where I make a mistake and I may need only a quarter of a yard or an eighth of a yard and I don't have it. Or sometimes I make a grave error and need half of a yard and I don't have it. I have to go back out to the fabric store and hope that it's still there. However, I don't spend any more than I need to, right? So you see, it's a blessing and curse at the same time. I really don't know what's the right thing to do when it comes to buying fabric. Now, in this regard, I literally purchased 1 3/8 of fabric. And as you see, I have no scrap left. You know, I'm trying to keep in mind, what if my waistband is too small? What if I clip something incorrectly? You know, I'm trying to prepare for the worst, and I can't really do much about that because I don't have enough fabric left over. Now, my last do that I want to share with you is that I do clean my machine. Now, my machine is actually due for a tune-up now. I think both of them are. So I definitely need to get them some annual maintenance. And I have the perfect company in my area. I actually enjoy talking to the owner there. But in addition to that, I do take my little lint cleaner thing and I do clean the inside of my bobbin case and take a few pieces apart on my sewing machine and clean it up. Now, if I'm working with a fabric that has a lot of lint associated with it, like the faux furs that I was working with over the winter, then I definitely clean up my machine after making that garment. So every time I made a fleece or faux fur coat or jacket, I definitely took the little lint thing and cleaned up my machine there. At one point in time, I used compressed air. And then I read something or watched a video that said that's actually not helpful for your machine. It's too forceful and it could cause more damage in the long run. So I don't do that anymore. So I have my little lint brush thing, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. I think it's called a lint brush. And I use that. But still, Cleaning is definitely one thing I do make a habit out of. You know, you've invested so much money into your machines, you want to take really good care of them. Okay, you guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed my 10, 11 things that I do and don't do as a sewist or garment maker. I had fun, so I really do hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to read your sewing practices. So let me know your do's and don'ts in the comment section down below. Now, if you're curious on how this project goes, McCall's 8149, definitely make sure that you are subscribed and you come back. I would love to share my experience with you in the form of a pattern review or things that I have learned working with leather. So I will keep you posted. As always, I love you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.